VR in Star Citizen is a completely different game in the best way possible, but there are so many options out there it's hard to know where to start. Let's fix that. I've got 3 headsets sitting on my desk in different price ranges, and I'm going to walk you through them so you can figure out which one's right for you. I'll test them with 2 different hardware configurations, my wife's PC, that's pretty but skews towards the mid-range spec-wise, and my ultra high-end PC I use for this channel. I'll give you even more perspective on what you can expect. We're going to look at the Quest 3, the Pimax Crystal Light, and the Pimax Crystal Super Micro OLED. I'm going to tell you which each one does well, what each one doesn't, and most importantly what they actually cost when you add up everything you need to make them work. That's not the same thing as the MSRP on the headset itself, so the pecking order might actually surprise you. It's important to mention that I can't simulate VR in the footage. You'll never see the same color reproduction or the immersive field of view I see in the headset, even with the recorded footage from these headsets. I need to describe those to you. There's also no perfect headset at any price point. There never has been, and there might never be. Every VR headset is a trade-off in some way. You're always making the choice between weight, features, optical clarity, and screen resolution. Real quick, Pimax is sponsoring this video. They haven't seen the script, they're not getting editorial input on what I say about any of these headsets, including their own, and there's a referral code in the description if you want to save some money and support the channel. More on that later. Let's start with the Quest 3. It's a standalone wireless headset made by Meta, Facebook. Meta has built an entire ecosystem around this headset, a store full of games, a social platform, exercise apps, productivity tools, everything. You basically buy a Quest 3 and you're getting access to all of that out of the box. The headset itself is a small computer with a screen for each eye, and it can run hundreds of Quest-specific VR games and apps without anything else plugged into it. Unfortunately, none of that matters for Star Citizen though. The Quest 3 connects to your PC over Wi-Fi using software like Virtual Desktop or Meta's own AirLink. Your PC renders the game and streams the video to the headset either wired or wirelessly, which means you still need to have a gaming PC to play Star Citizen with the Quest 3. Wearing a VR headset isn't that dissimilar to looking through diving goggles. If you've ever been snorkeling, you know what I mean. If not, place your hands right on your temples pointing straight ahead. It reduces your field of view considerably. After a while you get used to it. We used to suffer through some really terrible field of views in VR, like 90 degrees or less, but it's much better now. The Quest manages to allow about 110-degree horizontal field of view, and for comparison, the Crystal Light is 105, and the Crystal Super Micro OLED tops out about 116. Hey everybody, Editing Tim here. Those numbers are actually a little bit misleading. So there's lab-measured field of view and actual field of view that a person gets when wearing it. Pimax reported numbers are their actual rather than laboratory numbers, and the Quest numbers are lab reported. The real number for the Quest is probably closer to 104 degrees. Now back to the video. Everything starts with lenses in VR though. The screen is only inches from your eye and the light is transferred through the lenses. That impacts everything about how you perceive it. The Quest 3 uses pancake lenses. Pancake lenses are the lightweight, compact option that most current generation headsets are built around. They work by folding light through multiple polarized layers, which is what lets the lens be thin and lightweight. The trade-off with pancake lenses is glare and light transmission. The way the light passes through those polarized layers means bright objects against dark backgrounds can create halos or rings around the bright spots. Meta's done some of the best engineering in the industry on minimizing this, and the Quest 3's glare is genuinely impressive for pancake lenses compared to the competition's. But it's still there and it's inescapable. You'll notice it when you're staring at the star in Stanton or a bright HUD element against a dark background while you're playing. The lens is paired with dual LCD panels at 2064 by 2208 pixels per eye resolution. It's on the lower end resolution-wise, but it's still competitive in 2026 as we've seen similar numbers on other headsets on the market. I think the most important number in VR though is pixels per degree, or PPD. It's a measure of how many pixels you really see across 1 degree of your field of view. The Quest 3 lands at about 25 PPD. For reference, the Crystal Light's around 35 PPD, and the Crystal Super Micro OLED is 53. The higher PPD means more clarity, especially for fine details like text and distant objects. Quest 3's panels are LCD, which is an older standard now. It means they're bright, but they can't reproduce true blacks and have limited contrast. The panel has a 90 Hz refresh rate. Some apps for Quest support 120 Hz mode, but 90 is what you'll be running most of the time, and that's the current VR standard anyway. Audio is handled on speakers on the headset itself, which don't require anything special. There's a 3.5mm jack for earbuds, and I really recommend that you don't use Bluetooth earbuds for gaming. There's way too much lag with Bluetooth in fast-moving games. Stick with the speakers or the wired earbuds. All headsets need to track their location in the physical world. The Quest 3 and all the others in this review use inside out, which means the headset tracks itself using cameras built into the front. You won't need expensive external base stations, and there's no prolonged setup behind just putting the headset on. The controllers are as basic as it gets to lower the price point. Hand tracking is built into the software, and it works well for menu navigation and casual interaction inside the meta software. Hand tracking is a feature that doesn't work in Star Citizen, but it's nice to have, and it's nice that you have it for those other games. The Quest itself weighs in at 515 grams, or a little over a pound without any strap upgrades, and it's distributed front heavy because Meta puts the batteries in the front of the headset, of course, as a standalone unit. That weight distribution is the single biggest comfort issue with the stock Quest 3, and that's why most serious users replace the strap. My Quest 3 that you've been looking at in this B-roll is not stock, and I'll get into all of the upgrades I made to it in the value section in this video. The channel's growing, and I'm now competing with the top creators in the Star Citizen space. A like helps the algorithm push this further, and the comments are where the real discussion happens. Drop yours, especially if you got questions or VR experience to share. This is a community resource first and foremost, and I appreciate you. Now let's get into the Crystal Light. The Crystal Light is where things change considerably. This is a PCVR first headset with upgraded hardware that's a big step up from the Quest 3. There's no worrying about wireless signals or battery life since it's a direct DisplayPort signal plugged into your PC and a USB 3 slot for power and sensor data. The image you see is the image your PC rendered in full quality. As I mentioned already, the field of view is 105 degrees. One thing that set Pimax apart in the industry is their use of what's called aspheric lenses. These lenses are the absolute best you can get in the VR space, but the trade-off is they are much heavier than pancake lenses. The Crystal Light's aspheric lenses are truly the pinnacle of optical light transfer. They transmit 99% of all the light from all angles, so they have zero glare. That's a huge factor in being able to get the most out of the screens they're paired with. I'll talk more about these in the performance section. And the screens, well, they're a step up as well. The Crystal Light uses a QLED screen with a resolution of 2880 by 2880 per eye. QLED is a major upgrade from LCD with better contrast, and we'll test if it makes a difference in a game like Star Citizen. Combined with the higher resolution and the 35-degree PPD, it should allow me to see more detail in theory. We're going to test that. With this headset, we're entering territory that depends on your GPU, so you may have to turn down the headset resolution to maintain performance. There's just that many pixels that this headset is pushing. It's positioned as a mid-range VR headset, and there's going to be a wide range of hardware configurations running it. There's other features that make it stand out from the Quest 3. Out of the box, it has a large soft facial interface with light-blocking rubber pieces around the nose, something the Quest 3 doesn't include, which is a major plus. It's so important to the experience that I had to buy one myself for the Quest 3, which is an added cost. VR is all about isolating yourself from the outside world. Additionally, the default strap uses a rotational knob to adjust the tightness of the headset, which is a huge upgrade over the fabric strap system on the Quest 3. Audio is similar to the Quest 3 with a loud external speaker on the strap system, and a DMAS upgradable speaker option or the same ability to use earbuds. Tracking for the headset is inside out, meaning the camera system manages the position of the headset and controllers without expensive base stations. Pimax controllers are functionally the same as the Quest without any bare hand tracking. We won't be using them for Star Citizen. Pimax claims to have improved tracking via software and firmware updates, so we'll test that. Now, the big one, this headset is considerably larger and bulkier than the Quest 3 due to the lenses and other features in this headset. It weighs 815 grams, which is about 300 grams more than the Quest 3. The good part is that it's balanced well with the strap. A VR headset that leaves all its weight on the face can feel heavier than it is. Distributing the weight evenly on the head helps a lot. For what it's worth, once I have it on and positioned correctly, I've never had a problem with the weight of this or the Crystal Super while playing Star Citizen. Now let's talk about the Crystal Super OLED. We've entered a completely different realm of the VR experience here. Crystal Super Micro OLED is what you buy when image quality is the most important variable in your VR purchase decision, and you have the wallet to act on that. It competes with the highest end headsets currently being produced, like the Mega NX 8X Mark II and the Play for Dream MR. I've already done an entire video reviewing this headset, and I'll link the review in the description. It goes deeper than I will here, and if you're spending the money on this headset, it's worth the additional watch. Features-wise, the Micro OLED is an evolutionary headset for Pimax, utilizing the modular framework of the Crystal Super series. There are different optical engines, which contain the lenses and screens of the various options they offer, with the Micro OLED being the newest and most evolved. It's a brand new approach for Pimax. Let's start with their headline feature, it's right on the headset, the Micro OLED screens. To achieve this type of visual fidelity, Pimax is using Sony micro OLED panels with a 3840 by 3552 per eye resolution. At 53 ppd, that's pixels per degrees, it's basically retina level, which is generally described as 60 ppd. It also has the highest field of view of all the units we're looking at, with 116 degrees horizontal field of view. I'll admit, I've never had an OLED monitor before, and I thought it was a gimmick for how much tech reviewers rave about how incredible they are. Well, I was wrong. I just can't believe how dark the blacks are on these screens. In a space game, that's even more important. It's really hard to go back to LCD after you see that. As important as the screen is, the lenses are equally important, and this is the first step in Pimax moving away from the heavy aspheric lenses. For the first time ever, Pimax has developed new pancake lenses based on the same design Apple used in the Vision Pro. A concave lens design that sidesteps most of the glare problems pancake lenses normally have. The trade-off is a higher production cost. Unlike the Quest 3 that needs to keep production costs low to chase as wide a market as possible, Pimax is putting in the work to develop these for pure performance. This is the same lens setup that Linus from Linus Tech Tips covered in his Dream Air preview from CES, and his takeaway was that the optics were genuinely impressive. The results speak for themselves. And as Star Citizen players, there's another amazing feature: eye tracking and foveated rendering. The headset tracks your eyes precisely and updates in real time, which lets the software only render a very small portion of the screen in your direct view. You don't notice anything different because of how our eyes work, but the load on the GPU drops significantly. It's a feature that needs to be developed in partnership with the headset manufacturer and the game designers, and Star Citizen has been working with Pimax to bring this to the game. Sylvan CIG, the dev leading VR development at CIG, has said his goal is to get this working by the end of the year. To get these features, well, there's a weight penalty. Weight is reduced from the Crystal Light to about 669 grams when the engine's installed in the head strap, but it's still heavier than the Quest 3. Mine has the DMAS audio upgrade, which uses larger, more full-range speakers, and I have the first generation of their comfort strap on there as well. The biggest problem I had with the Crystal Super series back in October was the inside-out tracking losing position if I took the headset off and set it down for a while. It was improved when I reviewed the micro OLED in January, and Pimax has had more updates on it since then, so I'll test if it's better now too. Let's test these headsets and see what kind of performance you can expect depending on your headset and your PC. We'll use two systems. My wife's PC is the mid-range. It has an AMD 5950X CPU, an RTX 3080 Ti GPU, and 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM. It was all flagship tier when it launched, and it's a couple generations behind now, so this is kind of more representative of mid-tier hardware. My PC is the high-end PC. I'm running an AMD 9950X 3D CPU, a 4090 GPU, and 96 gigs of DDR5 RAM. Ever since the graphical updates and switch to Vulkan, my PC runs Star Citizen great at 1440p, which is my usual resolution for play and recording. To keep it fair across every system and headset, all graphical settings are set on medium. Both PCs are running NVIDIA cards, so we're using DLSS on the performance setting with the Transformer model. To make this a useful Star Citizen test, I'm going to test the game in 4 locations. In my hangar is a controlled environment where we'll have the identical scene and lighting. In my Mercury Star Runner sitting in my hangar is another controlled test of internal ship environments. Walking around the platforms in Orizon to gauge the toughest performance test in Star Citizen. Any numbers we see here are the performance floor, and you can expect better in every other area of the game. And finally, Gilly's first dogfighting mission somewhere in the Crusader system in my Origin M80. Let's talk connectivity. For the Quest 3, I'm using Virtual Desktop to stream wirelessly over Wi-Fi. For the Pimax headsets, I'm using Pimax Play and Pimax native OpenXR runtime to talk to the game. And let's talk about FPS for a second. In VR, the number matters less than whether it's smooth. Stuttering makes you sick fast in VR. A steady 40 FPS beats a choppy 60 every time. So keep that in mind as I throw numbers at you. What I really care about is how it feels and what I can see, which is what I need to describe to you. And the footage you're watching was recorded at the frame rate I got anyway. Let's go ahead and get started with the mid-range PC. The Quest 3 with its low resolution screen gets the higher frame rate, which is no surprise there. We're in the mid-40s in the hangar, mid-40s in the ship, down to the mid-20s in cloud view, and the mid-40s in space. For the most part, this was fine, but I did get an occasional stutter that wasn't there on the other headsets. I'm thinking it might be the wireless streaming. There was nothing that made it unplayable, but it's worth mentioning because it was happening. So more on the experience after the high-end numbers here. The Crystal Light on the mid-range PC did high 30s in the hangar, mid 30s in the ship, around 20 in cloud view, and mid 30s in space. This headset is pushing 40% more pixels, and it's still within arm's reach of the Quest 3 frame-wise. And what you get for that difference is picture clarity I don't think I can do justice to. On the Quest 3, when the loading screen with its news article comes up, you see the jagged edges around the outside of the screen. It's right there and it's inescapable. I don't have that at all on the Crystal Light, and I'll come back to this. The Crystal Super is completely unplayable on this machine, which isn't a shock. It doesn't meet the minimum specs anyway. You're going to need to have a high-end PC if you want to run this headset. Now with the high-end PC. Same pattern with the Quest 3, it's got a lower resolution, higher frame rate. I'm getting 72 in the hangar, low 60s in the ship, high 30s in cloud view, and 70s in dogfighting. One thing I need to point out, I could see the individual pixels if I looked for them. It's easier on an all-white screen or a bright light if you look into it, because the black between them shows more. It's subtle, but it's there. And the small subtext on the cockpit buttons was unreadable. I knew what it said, so I had to be fair about it, but the letters weren't sharp enough to actually read. Still, I mean, overall, the experience is smooth enough to be playable. Same occasional stutter, probably virtual desktop issues. Still, I mean, the Quest 3 is a great VR experience. The Crystal Light really shined here. Mid-50s in the hangar, 60s in the ship, high 30s to low 40s in cloud view, 70s dogfighting. Butter smooth, and a big step up in image quality and detail over the Quest 3. Now, I still can't read the cockpit subtext, but at this resolution, I can guess what it says from what I can see. And that's the biggest thing this screen brings. It lifts the whole experience. VR has traditionally been about VR-specific games built on low-res polygons to keep performance up. If we drop the detailed world of Star Citizen in front of you, you appreciate the resolution even more. And one more thing here. I'll go deeper on this in the value section. With all the upgrades I've put on my Quest 3, including the removable battery on the back of the strap, I've actually made it heavier than the Crystal Light. Believe it or not, the Crystal Light is lighter than my Quest 3, and it has less inertia when I whip my head around. It's worth knowing if you're thinking about doing the same upgrades I did to your Quest 3. I still like them, but there's a weight cost to it, and I didn't expect to notice it as much, but I did, because the Crystal Light is just so much lighter. Which brings me to the Crystal Super OLED. Frames-wise, we're doing 40s in the hangar, 40s in the ship, 20 to 30s in cloud view, and 40 to 50 dogfighting. And let me tell you, this is the experience you take if you can get it. The blacks are just incredible, and you notice it the moment you see text. Like when you die and you have the maybe Orizen Hospital in the bottom right, there's the white text on black. You just see it great. The text is clear and the surrounding is pitch black. There's light bleed on literally all of the other headsets, but there isn't on any of this. I looked at the FPS meter and I thought, man, if this is only 40 FPS, I love every single one of these frames. Because the most important part was that it was rock solid, completely stable. And it's so detailed, I can read every bit of text I want down to the decals on items. It feels amazing, and the slightly wider field of view helped me see more out of the cockpit, or maybe that's placebo, I don't know, but I really like the experience. The frame rates are no surprise though, they scale with your resolution. You'll be able to tweak your settings and tune the output resolution to your PC. I'm just giving you raw numbers on the default tunes so you know the minimum to expect. You can probably do better. And as they keep optimizing the game, it only gets better from here. And let's talk about the tracking last. I promised this before, so I can confidently say that all the issues I had with the Pimax tracking are gone. It took me a few weeks to do all the testing for this video, and I took the headset off for hours and then put it on and I was good to go. That's a major positive improvement. Performance is important, but for most of us, price and the real cost of getting into VR determine what's actually realistic for our budget. The price of VR is more than just the MSRP on the headset. As PC gamers, we've already absorbed some of these costs with our existing gaming PCs, but depending on what hardware you actually have, there may be additional upgrades needed for the best experience based on where your system lives in the testing we just did. That's something you have to factor in on your own. Let's look at the Quest 3 first. Hardware costs everywhere have increased with the RAM crisis, and the Quest 3 is no exception. A couple of months ago, this headset would have run you $499, and at that price, it's a great value. But that's not the case anymore. Meta raised the price to $599. All of a sudden, that's creeping very close to the cost of a Crystal Light. And that's still not the complete picture. While the stock configuration is fully working out of the box, it's not the best experience you can have with this headset. The strap that comes with it is the basic soft fabric one. I'm not a fan of the strap myself. It looks like a jock strap, it's not that easily adjustable, and the weight distribution is fully on your face, which causes real problems for Star Citizen sessions that go past 30 or 40 minutes for me. Meta knows this, which is why their Elite strap is a $100 option to give you a better experience with the product. So the first thing you're going to want to do is replace the strap if you're intending to use this product intensively. Now for my headset, I've decided to use the Bobo VR S3 Pro instead of the Meta Elite strap. That's about $90. It's got a halo design that takes the weight off your face, it's got built-in cooling, and most importantly, a hot swappable battery system that sits at the back of the head to balance the weight. Hot swappable batteries are the key here. The Quest 3 battery is rated for about 2 hours, but in practice with wireless streaming, you're looking at maybe 90 minutes or less before you're plugging in again. Hot swap batteries let you keep playing while a fresh one is charging. Now, those aren't cheap. Each extra battery is $40, and the charger itself for them is another $40. I have 3 batteries plus the charger, which is $160 on top of the $90 strap. The other upgrade that I've made is the silicone face gasket and nose light blocker. The cloth interface that comes with the Quest 3 leaves marks on my face when I'm tightening it down for a session. The stock setup also lets light leak in around your nose, which for me kills immersion. I start to see the headset and myself. The silicone replacement solves both problems for about $10. It's a small thing, but you'll want it, especially if you play in a bright room. Add it all up. $599 for the headset, $90 for the strap, $160 for batteries and charger, $10 for the gasket. All of a sudden, I'm at $859 just to make the Quest 3 a comfortable, sustained play headset for Star Citizen. And I haven't even talked about the wireless streaming setup yet. You'll want to buy virtual desktop for any PCVR, it's such a better experience. But of course, it's not that simple either. The money buys you a headset that does a lot more than Star Citizen. You can take it on a trip, throw on Beat Saber, do a workout app, jump into VR chat, or watch a movie on a virtual theater screen during a flight. None of the Pimax headsets in this video can do any of that. They're PCVR only, and they're tethered to your gaming rig. If Star Citizen is just one of several reasons you want a headset, the Quest ecosystem has real value. But if Star Citizen and PCVR is your primary focus, the Pimax options start making sense at this price point. The Crystal Light's where the value calculation changes because the headset comes much closer to ready out of the box. The base Crystal Light runs $899. That's $40 more than the loaded Quest 3 at $859. For that small premium, you get a fundamentally different headset. The face gasket is already a comfortable foam interface with the light blocking rubber around the nose as I mentioned earlier. The strap is the rotational knob system, which is the same kind of upgrade Meta charges $100 extra for. The audio is built into the strap. You're not paying for accessories to fix the experience because the experience is already decent. The thing I want to flag here is that Pimax is running a campaign through the end of May that significantly changes the math. If you use my code at checkout, you get an additional 2% off plus a $150 accessory bundle for free. That bundle includes the DMAS earphones, a comfort top strap, and an ice silk facial foam upgrade. DMAS earphones alone are normally $130, so the bundle essentially gives you premium audio plus 2 comfort upgrades for free. The campaign applies to the Crystal Light and the Crystal Super variants, so whichever Pimax tier you're considering, this package is available through the end of May. Now let's do the math. At $899 for the headset, minus 2% with my code, plus $150 of accessories free, you're effectively paying about $880 for a headset that includes everything the Quest 3 needs, about $260 of accessories to match, with premium audio and comfort upgrades on top. That's the pecking order surprise I mentioned at the beginning of this video. The headset that looks like a step up on price and paper is in practice the better value once you do the real math with the current campaign, for Star Citizen focused players at least. Now let's get into the Crystal Super Micro OLED. The base headset is $2,199, and that is an eye-watering number, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. High-end VR is absolutely pay to play. It's an enthusiast-level headset with enthusiast-level pricing, and you'll need to have the corresponding PC for it to even make sense. The good news is the same Pimax campaign applies here. With my code, you get 2% off plus the same $150 accessory bundle. Bundle value matters even more at this tier because premium audio and comfort upgrades are the kind of things that you'd absolutely add to a $2,200 headset anyway, and getting them included free closes some of the gap on the total cost of ownership. Let's do the math on this one. $21.99 for the headset, minus 2% with my code, plus $150 of accessories for free. You're effectively paying about $2,150 for the highest tier consumer VR headset that the market has to offer. That's not the only option though. I spoke about the modular nature of the headset, and their ultra-wide model of the Crystal Super is currently on sale for $15.99 for a 140-degree field of view. Screens are QLED and it has a 50 ppd, which gives you another way to get into the top of the line spec at a lower cost. The Crystal Super headsets are for the player who's already big into VR, or they decided that they want to experience the best the industry has to offer. Maybe you're coming from another headset and decided the OLED contrast and pixel density jump is worth the upgraded cost, or maybe you want to try the Crystal Super model with the highest field of view in the industry. If you're considering this headset, watch the full review I linked in the description. That video gets into the technical details for the buyer who's really in this market. Now listen, I wouldn't feel comfortable making this video in May 2026 if I didn't mention this. Pimax is launching 2 new headsets soon, the Dream Air and the Dream Air SE. The Dream Air is their new high-end push into the lightweight category using the same screens and lenses as the Crystal Super Micro OLED. The Dream Air SE is going to slot in roughly where the Crystal Light sits today, though a few $100s more. Both of them are designed around lighter pancake lens technology with a much lighter form factor than what's currently available in their lineup. I am genuinely excited about these. These could be the products that finally close the gap between Pimax image quality and the comfort the lightweight crowd has been asking for. But they aren't here yet, and nobody knows when they'll be available. Plus, I haven't received them. Production units were just finalized for the Dream Air SE, and as far as I know, no reviewer has them in hand yet. I don't know how they'll actually perform in your hands or in mine. It could be the new go-to recommendation, and there could be trade-offs we don't know about until people start putting hours on them. Back in January, it was easy to recommend the Crystal Light and the Crystal Super lineup because production was a long time away. Now it's presumably closer, and I still don't have the release dates. Pimax doesn't either. We live in a world where tomorrow might never be guaranteed, so I'm not going to tell you to wait. All of the headsets I review offer a great experience, but I need to be honest about what's coming. I'm not a shill. I'll do a full review on the Dream Air and the Dream Air SE the moment I have production units in hand and put real time on them. Subscribe if you want to see those when they drop. Whatever you pick, I do hope that you get into VR for this game. Native VR support finally gets the scale right, and it lets you walk around your ship the way it was always meant to feel. There has never been a better time to try this. If you've been on the fence, this is the year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.